Very true. Very true. Can you hear me? Or you turn it up? Hey, so speak up. There we go. That should be better. 1-0.
Hello, you are watching Season 5 of the Fortnite Champions Series for Oceania, presented by the Australian Open.
Oceania.
My name is Vandy, and I'll be your host for today. For week 2 of the qualifiers, we are once again joined by analysts Fallout and Timmy. Fallout, how are you? Timmy, how are you doing as well? You look like you're struggling a little bit there, Timmy.
Yeah, it's about 40 degrees in my room today, so I am struggling, but we're going to push on through. We'll be all right.
Sounds good, Fallout.
Meanwhile, friends, it's minus 20 degrees here in Chicago, so the exact opposite situation, trying to stay warm while Timmy's trying to cool down. But more importantly, the action's about to heat up, so I'm excited for some more Fortnite action here down in Oceania. Last week was a ton of fun, so great to be back once again, Vandy, alongside y'all.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful to be joined by you both again. And I mean, I love that you said things have been heating up because the tennis, I don't know if you guys have been watching it. Fallout, have you been keeping up with the tennis? Because it has been the definition of heating up recently with the finals around the corner.
Absolutely. I am a massive fan of this time of year, the Australian Open. I wasn't 5 years ago, but once the Australian Open started doing so many Fortnite events, I started becoming a big fan of tennis. It's been a lot of fun to watch. My boy Tsitsipas, my fellow Greek, unfortunately got taken out in the semifinals yesterday, but I'm excited for the grand finals. Going to be starting here in a little bit on the men's side. We'll see if Djokovic can win it again. It'll be fun to watch.
Have to wait and see. But on that note, a big congratulations as well to our 2021 women's singles champion, Naomi Osaka. She was actually kind enough to sit down and give the players in FNCS some champions advice. Take a look at this video.
You bring a lot of colour and flair to this event, but the Australian Open is more than just tennis. We have music and gaming, esports. I know you're a keen gamer yourself. For the contestants taking part in the Fortnite Champion Series tomorrow, have you got a champion's advice for those guys?
Oh, yeah. Well, if it's a team sort of sport, I've watched and played Fortnite before. I know it's really difficult. I have a hard time building. But yeah, just have fun.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
I am such a fan of Naomi. I mean, you just can't help but be a fan of her. And I mean, she's a champion for a reason, but I do love that she actually just took time out. To the fact to even think that she's a Fortnite player herself, I never would have guessed it, huh, Fallout?
Yeah, that's spot on. You know, it's actually really cool. You know, the last 2 years going to the Australian Open, realizing how many tennis players, especially the younger ones in junior tennis, and of course, some of our younger professionals like Tsitsipas and others that do play Fortnite. It's been awesome to see. I actually had a chance to do an event with Coco Gauff last year. She is a massive fan of Fortnite, so it's really cool to see the crossover.
It's super duper cool. But enough about the tennis, because of course we came here for Fortnite. Let's take everyone at home through the structure, essentially how the tournament is going to work, what these weeks are about, because of course, as I mentioned, we are on week 2, so there was a previous week of action before. So take us through that, Fallout.
Absolutely. I love the structure and format. A couple changes made from the past seasons as we pull up the graphic right now to show you guys exactly how the format's going to play out. We have 3 weeks of qualifiers. Each week of qualifiers will have 4 rounds. We, of course, are going to be showing our grand finals, our last round today. The top 10 teams qualify from each qualifier to make it to the semifinals. And, of course, that's top 132 teams overall that'll make it through. They'll compete in a 2-day semifinal, 6-game finals from each on both days. Top 8 from that will make it to the grand finals. And then the teams that place 9th through 16th, they'll compete in a reboot round, which is awesome. That's a 1-match, winner-take-all reboot round, an opportunity to make it to the grand finals. I will lose my mind if that reboot round team somehow wins the grand finals, which will be a 2-day affair starting March 13th. It'll be the same exact and similar format to the semifinals. The winner of that will be crowned your Chapter 2 Season 5 champion. Slightly different format in terms of what we've seen from past seasons in the FNCS, but I'm excited, Vandy.
I'm very, very excited. Thanks for taking us through that, especially if you're new and joining us. It kind of just gives you that idea of how the tournament is going to run. But you may be wondering, how are we scoring these teams? And Timmy, luckily we've got you to explain exactly how the scoring is going to work for this tournament.
Yeah, lucky you. Anyway, so what we're going to see that's different from semis to finals is that it's 2 points per elim, and the placement thresholds are much higher. So what you're going to see here, 14 points if you get through to fourth place, but then it gets to 30 points for placing first. So we're going to be looking for lots of people playing for the Victory Royale by getting to height. You're also going to, what makes mid-ground viable this season is the fact that each elim is worth 2 points. And the reason that makes mid-ground viable is because these guys can control space around them, look to elim people coming near them, while the guys on height don't really get that opportunity to get those elims. So we're going to see a few battles and play styles. It's going to be really interesting.
Thank you so much for that, Timmy. As you already said, we have started to see that in week 1. Just the fact that elims are worth 2 points as opposed to the traditional 1 point that we've seen from most tournaments already is a big change, and it has made teams a whole lot more aggressive, which actually seems to lend itself to the way our Oceanic players like to play. But of course, no tournament would be complete without prizes. I saved this one for you, of course, for Fallout. What are they playing for? What's at stake here?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the prize breakdown. $90,000 total in prize pool, which is awesome, significant for the OCE region. Big shout out to Epic Games supporting the OCE region with, of course, the prize pool, but also broadcast. Every single tournament being broadcast, we can make sure to display the ridiculous skill on display. And as a result of that skill, there'll be some fruit for the labor. $22,000, or so actually $22,500 for first place, all the way down to 15th place, which will be taking home $900. All the prizing is in US dollars. So that's actually over 120,000 Australian dollars, which is awesome. So significant prize pool. Love to see it. And with the Oceania region presented by Australian Open, Vandy.
It's a wonderful prize pool to see. $90,000 readings, as you said, is a lot of money. And I have a little bit of a surprise here. I know I'm full of surprises for you all, but I can't help but throw them out. With that prize pool, you may want to take a look at this, because I don't know if you guys know, but if you haven't heard, Street Fighter icons Chun-Li and Ryu are actually joining Fortnite. So this is going to be the next new skins to join the game. And of course, if you take a look, what Ryu comes with, he's equipped with a training bag back bling, and he's got a built-in Shoryuken emote, and he's available in a bunch of variations. Chun-Li, she's available in 2 variations. She comes equipped with the Super Cab Basher back bling and built-in Lightning Kick emote. This is a blast from my nostalgic past, and I can't wait to see how these skins look in game. I'm very, very excited for this crossover. So, especially, I'm a big Chun-Li fan, but what about you guys? I want to hear, are you into fighting games? Fallout, big fan, yay, nay?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? That is also my childhood. Speaking of nostalgia, I've been loving Street Fighter for quite some time. So amazing to see these crossovers continue time and time again here in this chapter in this season. It's been fun to see.
This is a blast from my nostalgic past. It's super sweet. Like you said, I love these game crossovers, but Fortnite bringing these skins to life in a different environment is just amazing. The first person to run that Chun-Li skin, I'm going to be your fangirl. So you heard it here first. But enough about that. Let's actually recap the previous week of qualifiers. And Timmy, if you could take us through the top 10 teams from last week that qualified.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get the graphic up on screen. And what you're going to see is at the top there, you're going to see Sorov, Volks, and Sync taking up first place. The only team there to get 2 Victory Royales. Also 68 elim points. Really, really versatile display from them. 2 wins from height, but then on those games that they didn't win, they were looking to play through the mid-ground really, really easily. Will Ronan and Ishes, again, another team that played through the mid-ground. Lots of elims for them there, 68 as well, 140 points, which shows Volks, Sorov, and Sync with a 21-point win margin is really, really impressive. Comes to Basil, Jason, Vortex in third. Probably one of the best mid-ground teams in the world at the moment, and we saw them take a win from mid-ground, which we didn't see very often across any region last week at all. Muzz, Luda, and Speedy, again, another really consistent trio looking to play through the mid-ground, but we actually saw them get their Victory Royale from on height. So what we're starting to see is these top teams are ones that are really, really versatile, who can play across different play styles really successfully. And then 5th place there, another team that was versatile taking wins. 6th place, you've got Suns, Tui, and Cork with the 1 Victory Royale with the rocket launcher from Hydro. And then through 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, you've got Kazuki, DJ, and Chris. Bit of a low-ground warrior team right there. Esto, Omido, and Mammal in 8th. Rax, Skits, and Jake, another one of the best mid-ground teams in the world. Lots of different play styles on display, and we round out the top 10 with District, Bantus, and Gusos, another really good mid-ground team.
Thank you so much for that one, Timmy. It's really interesting to see, especially the points distribution from about first to sixth in terms of the qualifiers. Then it gets a little bit more spread out. So it just kind of goes to show how close it can be, even in that sort of top 5 region. But we haven't really seen the best. Like, some teams were notably missing from last week. So Fresh's squad, of course, will be participating this week. So something to keep an eye out. But guys, I want to actually go through our predictions. So we've actually gotten our talents, so casters as well as analysts, to put in predictions for this week. Last week, what we actually saw was no one was jumping on the same ship. This week, I think it's a little bit different. Timmy, we'll bring up the graphic, and then I want to start with your prediction. Why have you chosen this squad?
Okay, yeah, there you go. I've joined on board with Alec, Jinx, and Worthy. So these guys, probably the best team in the region. Didn't quite show up last week, but I'm expecting them to pull off a really good week this week. What do you think, Fallout?
I think you're a big copycat for stealing my prediction. No, I'm just kidding. I don't blame you one bit, mate. Of course, a lot of the top teams are obviously not going to be competing this time since they qualified last week in Sorf, Sync, and Co. So I'm sticking with my same prediction from last week. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy. Jinx and Worthy, the 2 winningest players, most consistent players in OCE history. Jinx, of course, the former champion from last season. You can't count them out, and you can't not put them in your first place spot in my eyes, especially given the competition this week and this time around. Of course, Aussie and MDF, well, they disagreed. Timmy, walk me through their predictions.
Yeah, so it's really hard to go against Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrex from Monster DFace. I totally understand why they're doing that. 2 of the best players in the world with Repulse and Forbes, with another really solid player from our region in Tyrex, and then Daneth, Osiris, and Skits. I really like that choice from Aussie. Bit out of left field, but one of the most hardworking teams. Daneth and Osiris were training with someone else, and they ended up picking up Skits instead, who's a controller player who came across from console. Really talented. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do today as well.
Yeah, you and I both. A couple other teams that are kind of dark horses in my eyes, Luna, Brezzo, and Culture. Hard to call them a dark horse. They obviously qualified last week. Big roster change and picking up Luna. I think that's a huge pickup for them. I'm excited to see what they can do with Luna on their team. They had the highest single Elim game in the qualifiers, 22 Elims in one game. Another team I'm looking out for is Raptor, Frizzy, and Oatly. They're going to be dropping Slurpee uncontested, in which we know is kind of a powerhouse POI. So I'm excited to see what they can do. Any other teams, Timmy, in your eyes that you're looking forward to seeing?
No, I think we covered off a majority of them. I think we're going to see a lot of variety in play styles. We're not going to see so many people playing for height today. I think there's going to be a few less of those dominant trios. One thing that's going to be very interesting, just the fact that we've got so many more trios, different trios playing today. We've lost 10 of the best trios in our region. We're going to get 10 new ones in, and it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, it's true, and I'm excited to see, because I think there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of who's dropping where. We don't know who's going to be contested off the rip, right? There's a lot of teams that maybe a lot of these top players are not used to competing against in grand finals, so that might mean we'll see some 50-50s. And speaking of 50-50s, one thing that's really interesting, only one game in last week's finals, out of 24 games across all regions, was won by a team that was contested off drop. So dropping uncontested is so important. And interestingly enough, I know I predicted Jinx and Co to win. They're actually going to be contested off of the drop with Orzo over in Dirty Docks. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen there. Trixie and Doom will both be dropping over in Caddy and Weather Station in that area. So expect some early game fights from them. And just like we saw last week, especially with this format, expect some high elimination games and aggressive early games. Vandy I think it's going to be a really fun one to watch.
I think it's going to be a super fun one to watch. As you said, full of surprises and a lot of, I'm mostly interested in, as you said, the 50-50s, especially for the first few games as teams kind of sort it out. But as we get ready for match number 1, I'm actually going to throw you over to our casters as we prepare for it. You are going to be joined by Aussie Antics and Monster. I hope you guys are as pumped as we are, guys. So take it away for us.
Thank you so much, Vandy. Of course, we are so pumped here. Monster last week got to kind of experience his first time watching OCE competitive Fortnite. I know he had a great time with it. We are incredibly excited. Monster, how are you feeling for tonight?
Yeah, listen, first of all, I'm ready to be back on the stage here for OCE. Had a crazy week here in the States, so you know what? Bring me across the pond where the weather's nice, it's cozy, it's stable. That aside, Aussie, listen, you took me through the ropes. You took me through my first ringer of OCE content on the main stage, and honestly, I wasn't expecting the gameplay that we got. It was like stacked, but fighting all going on at the same time. Just a crazy, different pace, I guess, for the region.
Yeah, it is. OC has that different pacing. Obviously, Timmy and Fallout just talked about it then. We've lost the 10 best teams, which I think will change it up even more because it is. There's that kind of skill gap in OC where the top players really do have that confidence to take those early game fights like we saw that you're maybe not potentially used to. But then once you kind of wean out those teams that are struggling a little bit more, it stays stacked till the very end. So you have like those really interesting early game engagements, but you still have active Storm Surge end games. And I think that is going to carry over today because as you saw, it's usually at the hands of players like Repulse who are still here today. So I think it might change a bit, but not much.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Repulse is having a good time last week. It's why I put him on the pick. We know he's going to quality on consistency regardless, right? So he's just getting his fights on, getting his, I guess, his comfortability going. And again, with him, Forbes, and Tyrax, they're a power trio. We saw some really interesting plays by them, even when they were down in members. So again, we're going to be in for a world of gameplay today, but Dirty Docs is probably going to be the main focus for me here. I know there's some other people that slept through the cracks, though.
There are, and that's the thing. Fallout just talked about it. There's going to be that kind of uncertainty of where are people dropping. Once you start to take the big names out, like jobs have been acquired by teams. Everyone knows where they're going, right? We had Muzz's team go through. Everyone knows they drop Lazy Lake. So now we got a new team. Remy's team's coming in and taking that. Does someone go to Remy's old drop? And then who goes there? It is. Fallout touched on it perfectly. It's uncertainty. We don't really know who's going to be contested until today starts off. But in OCE fashion, when they're contested, it's not going to be a couple shots from across the mountain, a disengage. It's going to be all-out warfare, and I'm excited to see where it lands on either way because we've got to see who's going to go through now. The 10 ones have gone through, but we have some other big faces. Last week, we didn't have Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon make it through at all. They're now here in round 4 for the first time. That's a big name that didn't get the chance to come top 10, who is massively going to change up things here today.
Yeah, and he's one of the few that can do it at the caliber he does it. One of the best hybrids that we've seen hit the entire scene in general. So, yeah, we're going to see him in here. Finally makes his way through. And again, the caliber of competition has been lessened a bit, right? Because the 10 best have moved on. So it is going to be a bit of a toss-up. Let's talk about how this is going to affect the semis moving forwards, though, right? We have an entire stage of where these players are going to affect the games.
They're going to affect the games massively. Like you said, it's a caliber shift, but it's also just, it's kind of uncertainty, right? You get stuck in this play mentality. You see it on NA East a lot. The scenes that practice a lot, and OCE is one of them, having set practice almost every night of the week. Once you take some of those teams and some of those names out of things, things change. All of a sudden, a team that you're used to rotating around, maybe again, let's touch on the Lazy Lake thing, right? Normally, let's say you're going, I don't know, caddy corners. You're used to Lazy Lake rotating early. Muzz's team gets out of there. Now, maybe Remy's team plays it a bit differently. They like to go for their surge on the team at caddy. Things change up for you. It's going to be a little bit interesting, but yeah, coming into heats, coming into those semifinals, we now have to have these players sit back. I know a lot of the main pros out there are doing their viewing parties. They're watching what's going on, and they're going to have to sit back and watch because we do have game 1 underway, and this is the most important part of every tour, right, Monster? The map shot.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone's going to be hopping down and touching down and just judging by the way players are touching down here. This was a north to south bus, and these players on the south side are getting the last time to touch down now. Western players still in the air here to touch down. Sacco 74 being up on the screen. Steamy Stacks highly contested here. 2 teams there. Dirty Docs we already know is going to have a contest going on there as well. And it seems like no squad's been dropped so far, but players have been eliminated.
And no teams at Misty Meadows. This one's crazy. And I don't know if that's because of, again, we talked about it. Timmy talked about it. You talked about it. Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax. They have that drop on lockdown. That is the last place on the map you're considering dropping because you know not only is it a top tier team, it's a very aggressive team. So I don't know, maybe a connection issue or maybe Repulse's team just threw a spanner in the works like, hey, we're not going Misty. We're going to drop somewhere else. So I'm excited to see where that is. As I can see in the top right, I thought this might happen. My prediction to do well here tonight, I thought they might be contested, and they are. We've got our GLM squad, Osiris, Daneth as well up here now, taking on Mako's squad, who last week, Monster, we saw take this fight time and time again.
Yeah, definitely. Already showing that they will stick the dropout. They will take the fights every round. This time around, though, a much different caliber of team is landing on them. And it ends so much faster, right? You remember that game 1 from last week? It was a standoff at the gas station for a long time. Yeah,
Storm was the only thing that got those guys moving. They were rooted firmly at Sweaty Sands. But like that's why I picked that team. That's why I said Osiris' team is my favorite to win here. Timmy touched on it. It's out of left field. If you're watching from home, you don't follow a lot of OCE, you're confused. Ozzy, why'd you you pick this team? It is an interesting choice. I get that, but it's a team that I know is going to try their absolute hardest here today. They're not going to rest on trying to get their series points. They're going to try and make it through. As another team we saw from last week, Monster, our Middle East contingent made it here 2 weeks in a row. This team actually usually plays on Middle East, choosing to play on OCE today at a ping disadvantage of at least 100 plus. Zwiddy, Toggle, and Fizz, and they've qualified 2 weeks in a row, and they want to have the fight at Caddy Corners yet again.
But I like this. This is not just a fight at Caddy. That means they get Weather Station to themselves this time around. We might actually see them make multiple end games. We only saw it maybe once or twice last week. Not enough for them to carry on through. Remember, you need about 4 or 5 big games, like solid, steady games in order to make that top 10. So for them to have the drop spots themselves, that could be the secret recipe for success.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They were being contested by Remy's team last week, which is an incredibly solid team, very, very scary team, and that's why the fights were a little bit harder for them. Remy's team now moving over to Lazy Lake with Muzz, Looter, and Speedy already qualifying. So we're already seeing how things are changing up massively because of that top 10 going through as this fight in Caddy Corners breaks out, and we do have our Middle East contingent coming out on top, hitting the dance on them as well, showing, a little bit of spice there because that's what they want to do. They want to claim this drop. You touched on it, Monster. They now have Caddy and they have Weather Station, and I don't want to call too early. I don't know if they're watching the NA games today. Monster, you and me were talking about beforehand. That means the snowball launcher is potentially on the cards, but I don't know if they've been paying as much attention internationally. It was really only discovered today how strong that item was.
That's what I was going to say, right? It's really if they did the homework or not. I do know, hey, listen, man, these boys, they're active on social media. They're reaching out to us. They actually really appreciate all the calls that we did for them last week. So I know they're going to do better this week, being that they're uncontested. We will keep a close eye out on them. Steamy Stacks looks like it's been a bit of a stalemate, though. You can see those ramps poising up for the fight, but if you own the stacks, you kind of own the airspace, right? You own all the control here. That's why Fragger Riz is able to just hang out right now and really, I guess, just be that daunting pressure from up above. Although he's not doing anything, it still is that factor, right? The looming factor in the air.
Yeah, it's always a scary one. Steamy Stacks is one of those drop spots that I don't particularly like going because when I go...
Hey, bro.
Play it, they beat me. It's a drop that really does have a lot of skill in it, a lot of game knowledge, how to play the stacks, how to play the buildings, which windows can you go through, where can you hold an angle. It's a drop spot with a lot of...
I'm watching you right now.
More of the mythic drops from old, right? Once the Grottos, the Sharks, you hide in the vents, how are you going to pop up?
Yeah,
it just has that caliber of drop spot knowledge that maybe somewhere more conventional like
They
Holy
worked out
Hedges
what
just
was wrong
doesn't
with it,
have.
did you?
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Oh.
Definitely got those conventional drop spots, these new springing drop spots, right? Obviously now the gold economy playing all kinds of favor into people's drops. Here though, Hunter's Haven, a drop that you don't really see contested too often, right? This is a low-key drop. It's in the middle of the map, and if you do get contested here, there's not a lot of loot for everyone. There's enough to get situated, but you really want to end this one quickly, and this is not what's happening here. It's the opposite. It's the build-off. In a place that you don't get a lot of mats at.
Yeah, you need to end this fight fast and loot the areas around it. You're right. Hunter's Haven has enough loot for one team, and if you want to have a good shot at it, you really need to start pushing in to Mando's house around the corner. You need to start getting some of the bridge loot. You need to move away quickly. And that's just not what this team's doing. I say that though, BMP has 4 splashes in the back pocket, so a bit of spare meds there, especially when it's for the whole team, and they're dropping down, taking some fights. Only has 6 kills though, so needs to be careful. I like this kind of box fight mentality though. They're keeping themselves covered because I was about to say this spot of the map's really good to stay kind of huddled and covered in, but if you build up that high, everyone can see you. So dropping down now and taking these fights, but they're not making it a quick one for him.
Yeah, no doubt this is going to be spaced out here. And again, the down and up trend, he's going to go ahead and swing back around, get back to his teammates here to see what kind of loot they can split. But look, even shotgun ammo running thin here for Fly, which means Sama is also low. Kripa, Rip, and BMP here again on the hunt for one another, trying to look out. You can see Tezcito on the side angle there. Yes, he's going to be able to land a shot, but no, he gets fried in the process. And they turn it around. That's going to be a crucial siphoning pickup.
Yeah, they're going to have to get the siphon to get the elimination quickly. We're already down to 80 alive, which we're going to see usually happen in OC a lot. You see a lot more players go down early, especially in these early games of people trying to figure out their drops, but that's when it still does stay towards the end. Once everyone finds their spots, they find their routes, that's when everyone starts focusing on the rotations. But right now, Kyoto wants to do something here, wants to try and find these angles, and I like the way he's been playing these box fights, playing these angles, really playing it smart, but unfortunately on the back foot because they are in a 2v3 situation, and that's the problem. You try to play the slow, methodical box fight, but if you've got the numbers against you, if your teammate gets caught out right then, they just run straight through them. You can have all the piece control you want, all the angles, all the edits, but if 3 people run at you and they've got barrels on you, you're usually going to go down.
Yeah, not only that, he had a bit of a gray area there as well, backing yourself up against those trees. You know, you just don't get the benefit of the visual cues either. So it was all bad for the fight there. Here, though, Brezzo on the other side with his teammate.
Radius
Talk about them mixing things up, right, and trying to come back. Oh, we get to see Radius this side. I feel like this is 2 power trios going against one another.
2 very big power trios going ahead against each other right now. And Radius, Slayer, and Fluxy being very, very vocal on social media and just as players in general that their main goal right now is not to try and get that top 10 for the qual. They know they're going to get there off consistency. They're trying to hold down the middle of the map and make players know coming into heats and finals that middle of the map is their area. They're not just Coliseum, they are everywhere the sand touches. That's what they want to do, and this is a new team. We get our quick stat coming up that Brezzo, Coach, and Luna had the most single gamer limbs with 22 from round 3. That is massive, and it is a new team on the block. We talked about it. Obviously, Luna filling the spot of Bridge this week. Luna, a player that's been playing since before World Cup, being a competitive veteran, usually known for being more of a leader, more of an IGL role, and that's what Brezzo and Culture were kind of lacking here. So looks like that's what's going to come up for them here today.
Well, let's not forget, when you switch teams, you reset your series points and whatnot. So this is an important week for Brezzo, Luna, and Colt here, right? This is a very important week. So honestly, they're striving for top 10. Danger is all around them when they're sitting next to other players with different agendas. They really have to be hyper cautious now.
That's it again. You saw it last week with Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrex, a team that just had the confidence to pretty much take fights you wouldn't be expecting. You never know. You think, okay, we're here on edge. They're beneath us. We've got good mats. They've got good mats.
Because there's this bug at the moment. That's why they got rid of Solid Cash Cup for this week. There's like this bug where you have to wait 15 minutes before we start game.
The way the qualifications are going to work into semi-finals, which is the heats, there are now 4 for every region. There's obviously 3 qualifying weeks. That only makes 30 teams that are going to get in from getting top 10 in those weeks. The other 102 teams are going to be selected through consistency of series points. So that's how well you do in all the rounds of the week. So when we talk about Brezzo's team swapping up, by dropping Bridge and picking up Luna, they lost any points they gained last week. So there is more pressure on them now to do exceptionally well this week and next week.
Yeah, it's just making up for lost time and, again, making it to this final stage. This is important. This is very important. You get a lot of points.
He's a good commentator. Did you say that?
Yep.
Fuck you,
honestly. Did you get banned, though, from the chat?
Slim that this is not a
bad
through to take if you're feeling pretty confident, want to stay warmed up.
I feel sorry.
Remember, it's just game 1. And game 1,
that's what I said.
A pretty quick pace here for OCE. I think last week was dip in there, feel the temperature out, and I think now we're more on track with that. Hey, let's get these fights going. Let's get active.
Yeah, let's get active right now as Tekmar looking to try and hopefully avoid this one. I was going to say, a headshot snipe there. Tekmar's a player who has a lot of respect in the OC region, or a bit of a reputation for being incredibly good with the sniper, especially the hunting knife when it was still in the game, getting ridiculously consistent 200-meter plus no scope. So not the play you want to open the window up in front of either way, as it looks like Oatly and Prizzy playing this one out as a duo. A bit of a connection issue there potentially on their third. It's going to be a rough way to start game 1, but looking like they got the loop and looking like they're still playing confident as we have the scoring format come up. If you were here for the pre-show, you would have seen it, but this is a different scoring format to the previous FNCS trios we saw last season, but also different to what you've seen from round 1, 2, and 3 each week in the qualifiers. Round 4 changes it up. Right now, a win is worth 30 points, but each of them is worth 2, and the top 3 is where the placement points ramp up significantly. And we saw this last week, Monster. Getting consistent, 6th and 7th place within a limb was nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, it just wasn't. You really need that top 3. That's where things start to break in. And honestly, I like to call it, the marker is getting past that 22-minute mark. You hate to be alive for the 20 minutes and then not alive for just long enough to make those final zones and those final pushes. So we'll see who comes up short. We'll see who just squeaks away with it, right? There's a lot of clutch factor involved when it comes down to those final zones, those final instances. It's so easy to mistake a heal off. It's so easy to forget how to look at the zone, right, and multitask that one out. That's the difference. That's the difference in those end games. It's who's been practicing those layer changes.
Yeah, it's dropping one layer in the wrong position. It's even a flopper sometimes. One flopper is the difference between 4 seconds in the zone, and sometimes that's enough to go from 4th to 2nd potentially. So
some water. Shout out to Twitch for this water bottle.
Steve-O's team is an interesting one. They've got a really good loadout, and they're choosing to set up here on the edge of 2nd, which I'm guessing means they potentially think they need a bit more storm surge. I guess they also didn't want to just run in the open sightlines past all these teams. Could have gone opted more for the center rotates with the sand, maybe the crystals, maybe a vehicle up the road to get past this one, because this is turning into a very, very congested edge.
Yeah, it's a poor spot to be in. The river going against them as well. So again, lost out on a bunch of free mobility opportunities here. And this is a storm surge warning going off right now, right? There's just a couple seconds on the clock now before it's going to start triggering. 7 players have to fall here. That can be a number of different teams. This is a squad that's only just barely, I was going to say, just barely above, so you know they're going to need to fight this.
Yeah, with 77, you got to think at least once 3 of these trios go down, or 2 in a little bit, that means they're going to drop below. They have to be one of the teams that's right at the very bottom right now, as you see another team 10 above.
I'm only gaming.
Reckless known as being one of the young fraggers in OCE, trying to do something here. Maybe with that sniper rifle. There it is. You see that storm surge go active, and this is what you want to avoid.
You're not getting any kills, that's why you're storm surge.
Right now, they are taking significant damage as a
but surely he has damage.
5 damage to be exact, as they're trying to make their way into this fight.
So are you watching?
This team inside knows. They know they're below. So you can either just get a tag, sit back,
let
storm surge take them, or think, hey, this team
is
desperate right now. They're weak. Let's push out on them. As they got 1 AR tag, 26 above.
Some shit player.
I don't like that decision, Monster.
Yeah, no,
put us on Brezzo.
Greatest decision, but it does buy them a little bit of time to reset the heels.
Brezzo's like the youngest freaking player ever.
And again, they were up above for a single damage, and then again,
Remember when I died to him at Lazy? Because my teammate got sniped, and then Ericsson died, and then I had to run away from them for 10 years.
Yeah, and then you fight people when you have 100 health and have 20,000 minis. That's what you do.
Yeah, and when I have full health and no minis, I run. Did you know that?
That's what you should do.
Yeah,
But I couldn't fight a whole trio there.
You fight for someone, so say you're in 20 health, you have 4 flops and 6 minis, you'd still fight them without popping.
No?
Yes.
Yeah, but I couldn't kill Brezzo there. It was like a full trio on me. All the freaking white and gold skins. What were they called? Like the ones that came out in the pack. They all just started pushing me. I shat myself.
Trying to push forward, and I think they have the advantage of this one. I think they're going to clean it up. So even though they were the ones who had to play aggressive with Storm Surge, putting their back against the wall, it looks like they might come out on top of this one as Riz trying to push their way in. Blue Charge can swing a fight so quickly. 1 tag on a Lazy, and that should be enough with a big charge. Can they find it? Lazy goes through the builds. Don't know if Lazy has any builds. Looks like he's trying to conserve them. Goes up above. Riz trying to find something. Has the med kit, so can take his time, but getting the cards, I don't like the chance of a reboot. And as you're seeing from the minimap as well, Monster, they're not out of the battle yet. They're going to get in, and then they're going to get held again, I'm guessing.
Fresh.
Yeah, and it's a 5-tick as well. So Lazy is not coming out of here with a lot of HP, regardless of how
Is Rel? Rel doesn't upload anymore. That's so annoying.
You didn't even kill him.
Clashes on the edge of the zone lines there.
Yes, I did. I have screenshots of it. Yeah.
It wasn't his name. Changed it.
What was his name at the time then? Huh? Like last season or the season before that? Huh? Tell me what his name was.
His name wasn't Rel. He had like some weird thing.
I'll have a look when I have the screenshot of me killing him.
But where you have freaking 20,000
and see what.
And dead body. And you just finish the fight, I'm coming in with my SMG dead. You have 5 chances to do that.
They killed him.
Heal decision there though, bit of a misplay, not looking to hit the minis. He did just
There's Jinx and
big pot,
Worthy.
so we'll see how that ends up playing out. Regardless of what it is, still
What? Who's else's game have I killed? Like, someone else. Oh, Brezo. Oi. I was in a creative match because I was looking for people on YouTube that were streaming, right? And Brezo joined. Like the actual one.
Oh, the actual one. Oh,
Yes, I'm not even joking. And then they like, oh, you're the actual Brezo and whatever, and he wasn't speaking, right? And then like he full left after they said that he's the real one.
We're old.
He had Renegade too.
Renegade Raider.
Yeah.
We didn't have that skin.
Prove it then.
Oh, well, you've done a locker tour. Doesn't have it.
Chelsea's locker.
I can't just show you his locker.
Show me the video. Send me the link to his video.
Okay.
Remember the last week we watched them, they didn't pick up a single point in game 1. Uncharacteristic of them. Will they have another donut run coming into this one? I hope not. Wow. I hope not. But if they do, I mean, they've been having a rough time the last few weeks. Like, really rough time playing Fortnite. Yeah, they only just made it into even round 4 today in their last game in round 3.
Yeah?
First time you've actually seen
No, we both were. What do you mean, prove it? How am I meant to send a screenshot? I wasn't there. Yes? Yes, I was. I don't know. It was ages ago. Why would I have a screenshot? No? Just Rel, because I killed him.
I sent you the link.
Yes, I did. I was, and I killed him. How can you kill me? Oh, you say no, I didn't.
Looking pretty decent.
Yeah, looking pretty decent. They had an interesting run yesterday as well.
Come on.
Some dramas kind of qualifying. They had some issues
I
early.
did kill Rel.
Brought it back at the very end. Rel stepping up into the, the
I
big
do, I have the screenshot of it.
being one of the older, more mature players in OCE.
I'll send you the video.
It was interesting stream and
Yeah, I'll have
for
one.
them to make it to round 4 because obviously they didn't do it last week, so a lot of pressure on them as a top tier team, and looks like they're performing well here right now, potentially getting the high ground
It's
on
an
the
old
half
video,
position to have a huge game 1. Not the best loadout for Fresh right now, though. Only one mini, one big pop. But when you look at Rel,
it's after
different story,
Renegade
and that is looking really, really good for this team. And Nubatoon being
like
that young mech fragger like we know him to be, he's probably got the good guns as well.
Yeah,
Why is it way back then? He could have got another account.
The best positioning you can ask
No,
for
it's not how it
high
works.
ground is the spot.
Yes, it is.
B, Worthy's gonna find something in the
Yes.
field.
Two eliminations.
You can't just ban him.
Yeah, but look at
No, it's
Toggle.
not.
Toggle's got 4 elims. We just
No, it's
killed
not.
them. They only had 3. Looks like they picked up a whole trio wipe at the
No,
expense
it's not.
of Zwitty. So Zwitty is down.
Yeah, going down to Prizzy. I saw one of these players actually make an exchange over onto Jinx, so it looks like maybe they
Brezo
took some tags over there.
YT,
Worthy
that's
went
his
off on
name.
his own and made big things happen
I know.
as well, but Worthy is down to being a solo.
Yeah,
Seeing a lot of our
look
big names kind
at
of
the
huddle up
video.
here. And where does the first rotating zone go? Where does 6 zone pull?
His name on
And
there
it
is
falls onto the
Brezo
half-half.
YT.
I believe that Nubatoon, Rel, and Fresh
I
are
will.
based on them building up right now and reinforcing. I think that's very true, and that is huge for the big content creator team here with a lot of pressure on
Hello there, Musty.
they're getting gifted.
Hello there.
Positioning, I'm not gonna try to
I'm
say
actually
getting first
I'm
rotating
actually
zone
gonna
on
be
that
good
half-half.
this time around.
Other half
Are you on controller, are you?
potential
Yep.
that is massive.
Cameron, are you on?
Except you can't play the tournament, can you?
Can go a long way in any sport. And that
I'm on
includes the
a
esports.
controller
Includes
now.
Fortnite competition here, getting that half in, half out is gonna be a
Yeah, I'm just in a game at the moment. 3 minutes left.
They let their guard down. Only and Prisoner are gonna come on up, and it's a back and forth. RPGs coming out as well. It's gonna be a sloppy.
You say I'm gonna get carried?
They have to give it up.
I think they might have to give it up as well. They don't really have the Mez. Nubatoon is still on, and a Nubatoon known
Oh, I
to
thought
fight
you
this
said
one
you
as
were
well.
gonna carry
Reyes
me.
goes up on it now as well. So yeah, there is no chance. Give that one up right now. You've got a good, solid team on high ground. A team that I talked about playing this for more making a statement. Really wanted to
Saving
control
what?
the middle of the map. Looks like they want to make a statement on
Saving a goal that's not going in.
Fresh heart and fresh
taking
I'm only
the offer.
joking.
So Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon being pushed to the very edge right now. Their position went from being fantastic to not terrible, but definitely not the best. As
Oh, it's
Fluxy
big Brezo.
leading the front side as Radius and Slayer on the back. This is a very, very solid team.
honestly, and the lobby should be happy that high ground team needs surge tags, so they're probably gonna have to come down fresh though on the pepper effects. No extra heals to work with, and 17 trios alive. There is way too many players up right here. He does have to stick with his teammate, and they do end up getting with one another, so it's up to Rel and Fresh to stay alive. Back with Fizz and company though, again as a two-man operation.
So you're better than last time.
I'm better than last time.
Shush up, Jared.
Smooth right now though.
I'm gonna say that. As soon as someone comes in, you be so tough.
I always say shut up.
No, you don't.
Shut up, kid.
You say
Except when you kept going on about when I say shut up, kid. Yeah.
Who's on the low ground? Who's on the mid ground like this? This is what I was looking for. Frezzo with the 3 clocks.
Yeah, hey, Jared. Yeah.
This is the squad that could
You totally didn't just go around saying shut up, kid, all the time.
still has the fighting power to contest them.
Because of me.
Already proving his worth as the ideal partner I said he could be, because he's leading that trio so well right now. And here it is. Business time to
Yeah, well, I do always say it, even if it's just with you.
Right before top 10, just shy of where you want to be. You really need
Well, we meant to have shots on goal and he has to save them. That's what we're doing.
Looking for anything, and that's onto Fresh. Fresh is gonna also break.
Yeah, I'll join in a second.
Nubaton's still alive, though. It's not over for his trio. He's holding it down here for Elam so far. And
It's got a minute 14 left.
Okay, Nubaton holding it down for the boys here.
He is. He's doing big things right now. New pickup has been playing with Rel for quite a while, but hasn't really played with Fresh too much before. And he's doing big things on the low ground to clutch up solo. Still alive and took down my team, and then he finally falls to the hands of Spraz. So we've got our 4 teams left. Who is going to be able to do something? Can Brezzo and Luna potentially culture as a full trio? So we right now have 4.
Jared, why aren't you in the finals?
12 alive. This is a very, very rare sight, Monster. Yeah, definitely.
Like me.
It looks like Remy's going to... Oh, no, they clash, and they get taken out before I can make the call there. It's Brezzo who's up above. We just asked if they would be able to stay alive. And it seems like he did. Pace as the solo gets cleaned up quick as well. And look at that.
Boo, man. No, oh, I'm talking about Fortnite for Jared, but I'm playing a threes match and it has 27 seconds left.
Don't know if they have the heal off potential. Don't know if it'll even go to a heal off. Yes, it is.
Well,
it's a 3v2
at Rocket League,
find their way down. Luna being pinned out.
not at
Here it is,
Fortnite.
3v2. Can Sayo and Zedox play spoiler? Can they do something from the low
Jared, are
ground?
you still here?
That high ground team? Because Fluxy, Radius, and Slayer have been sitting
No.
pretty up there this entire time. And the
Can I
one
do a
thing that's
90?
very scary is they don't have the heal off advantage down there as well. So these games go
Depends
from
if
top
it's,
down.
you count a slow one as one.
Yeah,
The
you
difference
got
is,
very
they
slow.
have that extra set of eyes here to work with, and now already Radius looking to come down. The bounce is going to be no good. The shot is good though. And he
Radius
tries
wins.
to catch him in the process. This is the final moments. This is the final call, and it should be a quick cleanup here for Sayo. There it is from the
Radius
other
won.
perspective, and down he goes.
Well then, yeah.
Radius, Fluxy, and Slayer
Ye-
taking out the dub right there on 5
Yep.
eliminations. Nothing massive. Timmy talked
Yes,
about it in
okay.
the pre-show. On high ground, you usually have that good, consistent placement, but you don't get too many eliminations. So there could be a shake-up on the leaderboard. I'm guessing that team's going to be in first place. But
Alright, you can, what's it called, ready up now for private or whatever we're doing.
Could really jump ahead of them.
And the way Elam's work as well.
Why do I still have the musty flag on?
4 when we last checked in with him, and I think he's still lighting up the feed there.
Okay.
Maybe you'll see
And what am I
Fresh
meant to do?
out there as
Just
well,
shoot it?
because his team, Rel and Fresh, also were picking up something in those final moments.
Yeah, and I'm scared to see the rest of the lobby. I talked about it. Fluxy, Radius,
Oh.
and Slayer didn't really put much pressure on themselves to do well in the tournament today. They said, hey, early mid-ground, we're going to...
And then I can do whatever.
That's going to be where we hold it down. Anyone who goes through there wins.
Okay.
But then they get the high ground, they get the win already.
Yeah.
So that gives them points that they didn't even potentially
Air dribble.
need or want as much. They're looking to make statements, but I guess showing that, hey, we are comfortable at winning the games on top of the earlier
Yeah.
games.
Air
And
dribble
then,
bomb.
Of course, you have Jinx, who didn't have Alec in that round, who didn't make it into that one either. So his trio looking rough on a contested.
So what are we
They
doing?
didn't even have any Elams coming in, so they're so rough for them so far.
What am I meant
Yeah,
to do?
very rough for them so far. We'll have to see what Timmy thinks, what the analysts think, because they're going to have to break it down for us before we jump back into game 2. But an incredibly exciting game 1 that didn't go exactly how I expected either way. Vandy, break it down for us.
Thank you so much, Aussie Antics and Monster. That was an explosive game number 1. And I mean, for me personally, what really stood out for me was Storm Surge, time and time. It seems to impact how teams fare during the game. Like, if you get that advantage early on, you seem to be able to kind of carry it through to mid-game and the end. What stuck out to you guys? Can you break down the game for us?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, like you said, Storm Surge really did play a big part of how those teams were distributing mid-game there. So I'm not too sure if you guys remember, we pulled all the way top right of the map, right the way up to Steamy Stacks. And what the result of that is, Storm Surge makes people cluster towards each other because they feel like they need to do damage to one another. What then happens is that we see dead side completely dead. So teams who don't sort their surge early aren't looking for isolation. They can't find that. What are you seeing here, Fallout, that stuck out to you?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head in Storm Surge overall. And of course, as we get to the late game, you see that come into effect, right? A few of these teams are relatively new to the grand finals and the big main stage because of the new format with FNCS. The fact that teams are qualifying and are not able to play once they do qualify, that means it lays rise to new teams, new faces, which I think is amazing to give new players a chance to really shine. On the flip side, it also gives them a chance to understand the pacing, and the pacing of a grand final is so much different than the pacing of qualifiers and Cash Cup. So for that reason, I think a lot of these teams are starting to learn that what the pacing looks like and how you have to play a little more aggressive to avoid that Storm Surge. I think they'll get used to that in games 4, 5, and 6 a little bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely. As we jump on board here, we can see Alec not quite making it into the game. We saw him DC'd early, and then also Raptor doesn't make the game as well. Oatley's trio. But one thing that we got to note, it actually wasn't Rel, Fresh, and Noob who had height, Noobatun, who had height at half, who secured the win. It actually ended up being Fluxy Radius and Slayer, the team who took it from them in first moving. So that's actually not even where the exciting stuff took place. It was in the mid-ground with Brezzo, Luna, and Culture, and then Bathan, CO, Zedox, and Spraz, Pace, and Remy. That's where all the action was happening.
Yeah, of course, in Bathan's CO and Zedix, they actually got 11th place in the last grand final, so barely did not qualify. Well, they're going to continue right where they left off with a solid second place finish right there. And I got to say, you mentioned it, but Brezzo, Culture, and their new pickup in Lunar, really solid game for them. They are a high-octane type of team. I'm excited to see what they can do, but ultimately it was the team that held high ground most consistently last week that does it again in Team Slaya. They take a first place finish and once again maintain high ground. But like you said, it wasn't necessarily at half. It was at first moving that they're able to retake high ground from Fresh and Co.
Mm-hmm. That was really cool to see. All right, well, while we get prepared for match number 2, let's check in with our casters. So I'm chucking you back over to Aussie Antics and Monster.
Will happily be chucked back over to. Welcome back, guys. Yeah, I mean, as Timmy talked about it there, it is interesting. When you get those massive zone pools, you really do get those clustering of players. And I think Fallout touched on it perfectly. Just in a region, especially like OCE, which is the smallest region in the world, once you start to take those top 10 teams out, it does lay rise to new faces, which can perform well, but they might not have the same level of experience. And that's what we're kind of seeing.
Right, and trying to together. And
is Molly on Fortnite?
Yeah, probably.
Even some of our vets that make it to the final stages and are just not what you call grand finals performers. It takes time to build that up, right? It doesn't come natural for everyone. And for some of these new pros, you have that star quality early on. And for others, it will take a little bit of time, but they're the runner-ups. They're who's...
Oh, this is sad.
Just the pressure too. If you're not used to being in set lobby fashions, when you play a normal tournament, say you have 10 games, 3 hours, like a qualifying format. If you go down, you make a mistake, you instantly reset, you get in the next game, you go again, you make up for it. It's really different when you got to sit back, you got to sit on it, you've got to think about what happened, what went wrong. Some players work really well in that. They thrive on having that mental reset and that time to think. Some players don't like it. It just gives them time to dwell on it, and things just get worse and worse for them. So I'm excited to see you jump back up into game number 2 as we're going to be kicking off with it right now as well to see who can back it up there. And don't worry, we're going to keep you guys updated with the leaderboard as we go tonight. Radius, Fluxy, and Slayer with that first place were able to take out first on 40 points. Danath, Osiris, and Skits, my pick to do well here tonight, just saying, in second place on 37. And we have Bathan, Zedox, and Sio also in third on 37. So we got a tie for second.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's looking close up towards the top
know,
here, though. The battle bus is still swinging its way through. We talked about this Dirty Docks briefly in the post of the game. This time around, I do see Alec in the round. I do see Worthy already touched off in the distance there. So it's looking a lot different here at the Dirty Docks. We get a little glimpse of the drop.
Yeah, a little bit of a glimpse of what's going wrong here potentially, because last game, something happened to Alec, and it was weird to see that Jinx and Worthy had really good weapons, which makes me think they went through the usual kind of, gold inventory. You talked about it. You've got 2 upgrade NPCs here. It's a very good chance to get a lot of gold in the inventory, upgrade the weapons, buy the weapons potentially, and make big plays. So to see Alec go down, but they also did that, but they didn't have eliminations. Just, I have no idea how that came about.
Yeah, definitely was very, very interesting. And, everything matters, right? Especially when you're down a player. This is all about having those extra eyes, extra guns on deck for the Surge too. It becomes a domino effect. It becomes a toppling effect. There's a fight going on, though. A little bit of Camp Cod action way down south here. Seems like it's going back and forth. It's too early to really take the gunfight there with the damage that's done to both sides.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of builds right now. Plath, I believe, is going to have to come in and maybe see what he can do with the extra materials. He's been the teammate that farmed a little bit further away and pushing in late, so that's the play you're really looking at to kind of come in and clutch things up. But unfortunately, one teammate down right now. Socha's gone down, seeing what they can make out of this one, trying to find those angles, trying to find that damage in there, and still 14 builds left, so has the advantage of the builds economy, but one player down. I think this is a pretty bad fight right now for both teams. They've got plenty of time down here to fish up and try and get their way back into this game. Zone isn't too far. They don't have to rush the fight, but at the same time, Natsu here wants to rush it, wants to jump up and find that advantage. The shots coming out as you do see the leaderboard on the left in case you missed it there. Thank you, production. Throwing that up for everyone at home right now, as I believe this is a 2v1 or almost a 1v1 though, because Plath only just survived that. And the only thing with his job, Monster, no reboot station.
Yeah, none at all, and they just missed the ticker, just missed the timer. The nearest reboot station was that it rotates to Caddy and then up towards Lazy Lake or Retail Row, right? It's a pretty deep swing out and or Misty. So again, all drop spots that should be contested, but hey, game 1 actually didn't have anyone at Misty. So I mean, I guess maybe if they had the broadcast open or they were doing their homework in the post, they might have noticed that Misty could be uncontested. Who knows?
Yeah, at the same time, Misty is back up now. I'm going to think it's probably Repulse and stuff. It's very Repulse fashion to miss game 1. Just that, I could imagine a multitude of reasons that aren't technical or have any great reason other than Repulse just missing it, as Reckless not missing his shots though. Lazy, Reckless, and Bluesy managing to win out steamy stacks here. So last game we saw it kind of broke down into a slower fight that spread out for a while. That one ended a lot faster. On the flip side, our second place team here, my pick of the night, having a much slower Sweaty Sands fight than what we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, and that's because they weren't contested at the big main, so it seems like we're watching a repeat of week 1. Mako, Baton, and Kuma here are going to walk up. Mako team's rolling up real close. Okay, and they're looking for the fight at the gas station. It's going to break out. High ground being held by the team Mako, and he is going to continue to hold things out. Not bad as Osiris has to battle his way up. It's looking like a different pacing here, maybe. I don't know. Your trio might be able to do this, and yes, they are. I
was about to say, our GLM team's going to be able to do big things here as well. They definitely have the advantage when it comes to fighting power. Unless Team Mako can kind of stall this one out for a while, maybe get a headshot snipe, something like that. If this just comes down to a pure 3v3, mechanics on mechanics, experience on experience, Danoth, Osiris, and Skits will win this one almost every time. Skits is low, though, and that is the controller fragger, the real powerhouse of this team to do the damage. But at the same time, Danoth and Osiris definitely not ones to be slept on, as Osiris are now going for a bouncer play, trying to find something as they're really putting the pressure on in this 2v3, knowing they have the numbers advantage. No. Osiris, a huge mistake, jumping out of the box on the wood flat, spraying out his own flat. This could be the difference between them winning this tournament or losing it, as they're in second place. Danoth has to clutch up, and that's an absolute just not one you want to toss on the main screen.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Those are one of the ones you want to brush under the rug and forget about it, but instead it was shown to the masses. And just like that, you'll have to live with that one, but let's see. It's only bad if GLM can't clutch up now. So it's Mako versus GLM. What team will be on top? Let's see what Botland can do here. He's again working his way around. I think he's figured out something's up. Yes, he did, but again, Dana should get the res off. Yes, he's going to be able to get this pick up.
And remember as well, Cyrus is going to come back with shields because he only went down to full damage. I saw the floppers in the back pocket, so can easily eat those floppers, and there we go. We're going to be back to a pretty healthy fight here, of which Mako Botland does not have. So it's a 2v1. The reboot, though, we're trading the revive for the reboot. This is massive. I don't know if Cyrus knows they're going to be going for it. They heard them run away. We'll have to watch the feed to see how that one plays out. That could have been potentially trading the revive for the double reboot, which would then swing the odds back to a 3v2. too, Monster. It's like a chess game over at Sweaty.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be having second thoughts if the reboot gets picked up at that point, but let's not forget they only spawned in with those pistols, so it will still be a bit of a disadvantage. We'll see if they can get the act together over at Sweaty. Here, though, Tecito, Coyote, and Fly, they were a bit of a fight on the way through, but again, those are just your traditional exchanges for surge tags, not looking to overcommit to any fight here and now. Let's not forget this Hunter's Haven area is a contested draw spot, so little do they know, it probably would have been safe to battle any teams out here, but again, better safe than sorry. Not every team is looking to just pull a consistency call, right? Some players, some squads are looking to use this best practice possible and play for the highest placement possible.
Yeah, go big, go home. And you talk about that area, every time you pull south, it is just, I know it might sound like, it might kind of sound a bit much OCE thing as Code Russian trying to do something big here, trying to take this fight. And remember, this is the area that's usually patrolled by Slayer and Fluxy. Nowhere to be seen right now as Code Russian trying to hold down this area. And this is such an interesting one because you've got those, you know, you've got the 0-point rocks that are trying to jump around. You've got the sand to rotate. There's just a lot of mobility here, so you can take a prolonged fight and still make the rotates as you're now seeing here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Here's Repulse.
Yeah, he's finally in. He's getting going right here. Forbes and Tyrax on the back burner as well, and this is I'd say this is a Repulse thing to do if you've ever seen it. Like you said, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. They weren't in the round one. Now they're definitely here in game two. You can see just outside of Misty as well, their home territory, and they're winning this fight up against Slade and company. Have them on the run. A good old run through the box. AR spray is going to be good enough for Repulse here to find Slayer. The fight rages on, and he doesn't find the trio, so might be a little bit of a slowdown for him, but the pepper effect's going to keep him at.
And a big slowdown for our first place team. That is Slayer out of this one with Radius and Fluxy still going to try and hold this down for our first place team. And I talked about how they wanted to hold down the center of the map. Not really sure what led them to want to try and take a fight down here near Misty at the bottom of the map. So I don't know. Radius rotating away in the car and Repulse down here now taking a fight. So just not the team you want to run into when you're in first place.
For a moment there, it was really looking like he was setting up to bouncer chase. I'm like, there's no way he's going to notice this car, right?
Potentially, you can't put it past Repulse. He's the same thing. He'll play this like he'll play any other game. Cribber now here down underneath this fight, trying to do something. Got the Mando sniper rifle in the back box. Some interesting things you can do with it. So using that green lever action shotgun to try and make quick work of this fight. And that's what they're doing here. You got Rip, Cribber trying to do something together here. Trying to pin this one down. It's Fly. We saw Fly go down last game in a mid-game engagement as well. So things not going well for them. Their team on 0 points right now. Kyoto has to hold this one down, trying to get them off the donut here in game number 2.
Not looking good, though. Not looking good at all. And look, a little panic hop there is going to eat into the time a little bit. But okay, he does get the mini off. Now it's time to get running. And again, he gets chipped on the way out. Goes for the one pump and he finds something. But no, it's not going to be enough. Rip's going to take that one. That's a full trio wipe for them. Big Elans, considering they didn't really have much coming into this fight when we saw the loadout. Here's the Repulse, though. Repulse still going. Oh, he's just embarrassing players at this point.
Yeah, put on a show. And M1 is not an underrated player in OC by any means. M1 is a phenomenal player who knows how to hold his own in these kind of fights. And no, here it is, our Middle East contingent going up against someone who's on 0 ping right now, who's one of the scariest fighters in the region. Gonna drop him in if you can. Tyrax walks in the box, doesn't even care about the drop down. Repulse stepping up as well. Forbes is pretty low though. Normally that's an indicator for your team to slow down, back up. Hey, one of our teammates is trying to make. No, normally not for Repulse. They're still gonna try and get forward in this one. But all credit to Toggle, Zwitty, and Fizz. They're holding it down right now.
Listen, Toggle, if you can hear us, just run. You are in big danger here. Okay, there is too much threat nearby. Toggle's Zwitty and Fizz now. And some big pressure's going on. Here it is. Repulse gets up to the layer. Now he wants to take the fight. They're already at 4 Elans. He has so much heals, max out ammunition. This is the loadout of a champion right now, literally. Yeah, he doesn't even need it all. And look, he's gonna mosh right through. Forbes gonna get traded out here. Repulse gets punished, but for what? For some Elans, and they win that, no problem.
7 eliminations there. That's another trio wipe down as well. And that's the confidence of Repulse right there. He was sitting on about 120 effective health. Had the minis, had the shields, had the floppers. Just didn't need to use them though. Forbes pushes in. Tyrax pushes in. They missed game number 1 and they're already up to 14 elimination points here in game number 2. As you see our quick stat fly up. Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax had at least 5 elims in 7 of their 10 games from round 3. So yeah, they drop frags. This is what I'm talking about. If you're taking a fight around Misty Meadows, you're scared that it's going to be with this team.
like
Hey,
every
listen,
single one of
man,
them.
we try to give the warning, but, you can only do so much here. Hope for the best of some players. Repulse is back with a vengeance. They're trying to close that gap. Cyrex, though, no Elin for this trio. How's Morph rise up to be able to perform here now? Pressure, the fight back, the compact SMG, the double edit open up, and no, it's a bad trade for his duo. And one's down, second down as well. He needs to clutch this here. No, one shot short for Bailey to fall there, and Bailey will find it, will clutch up for his trio. He should be able to get the pickups as well.
Yeah, now it's shooting back into already another 3v3 engagement, and look who's on the other side of the cone is none other than Repulse, but only Prizzy and Raptor on paper going to usually put up a better fight than what I would imagine from the Middle East contingent team. Again, you never really know. All it's going to take is a good epic charge from Repulse to end this one, but already, as you can see, only fighting back a little bit more aggressively, but they're fighting the angles. You have Forbes sitting back, spraying on the side, Tyrax spraying on the side, and then Repulse is on the edge of the walls, playing confidently, trying to lock this one down as only Prizzy and Raptor get the high ground, building up to try and get away from this one as Repulse's team is 2,000 above Storm Surge.
I mean, I love what Oli did there. Sometimes you got to fight fire with fire, and that's exactly what he was doing as the distraction was happening. They do control the height, but they don't do enough with it. They let the young Repulse refresh. Hold up, though. He gets punished on the way up. Maybe now it's enough. The Harpoon comes out, too. There might be someone in the box. Repulse is on the run here.
Repulse is on the run, which is not usually. Poe's going to try and find back. See if he can find some meds and push back into this fight here, but this is such an interesting zone too, Moz. We've seen constant action, constant fighting, but pacing into the end game, look at this zone. Half of it is in the water right now, and if you're following any of kind of, the main theories out there right now about rotations and zone positioning, that normally means because zone's going to keep pulling max, which is not going to be good for a lot of teams, but these teams are in the center right now. They've got the green light to fight as Oatly goes down. Prizzy is almost down. Raptor is just playing for his life as Repulse's team is about to take their third full trio wipe before third zone.
Yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous. Tyrax is on fire right now. He's literally connecting with everything. He's also pound for pound matched the elims here. 4 for him as well. That's 8 for the trio. Who's gonna be able to walk away with this one? It's a race for it. Repulse eats the first big shot. Remember, you don't want to get thirsted out now. Raptor's still putting up a big fight here, but out of eliminations or out of material is what I should be saying, but Prizzy not too. So communications coming from Prizzy here are probably still enough for him to at least know something is possible.
Something is possible. Now it's Rel, Nubatoon, and Fresh set up here as well, which now is usually the pacing. As you can see, the amount of players that are now making it into this rotate, making it onto this edge. This is when you'll see teams like Repulse with that insane aggression. Even they will begin to slow down. You'd imagine, because there's so many eyes on them right now, this isn't a fair fight anymore. You can't kind of flex your mechanics. You can't go for a lot of wall replaces and fancy edits because you're going to get lobby focused. So teams like this right now, Pace, Remy, inside these full build structures can still do that because they're not out in the open. They're not as visible as Remy, Pace, and Spraz try to get more than their first elimination on the board. 26 points here, not too bad, but this zone is going to be an interesting one. It's already pulled far, far southwest, which is the exact opposite of what we saw last game with the northeast, but there's mountains in this zone and there's water. This is a far, far more dangerous zone than last game.
Yeah, and just with the distance that the zone's pulled, the teams aren't even set up to actually third party, and that's why these trios are just having a ball, literally fighting on the edge of zone where otherwise it'd be such a huge risk. It's only now teams are starting to touch down, and even then 50 seconds on the clock here for the rest to get in. If you just glance at the map down there, you can see there are 3 trios at that north mountain that still haven't crossed on over, so there are plenty of teams still needing to traverse this distance here. Slowing things down though, back to reality here for Brezzo and company. You can see not everyone's on a box-to-box fight. Some players are just playing for the key positioning, like this squad right here.
Yeah, some of the teams having to play for positioning. That's what they got to do, try and get their points up right now as this team is on 0 points here. Good loadout, though. See that epical tac shotgun as there we go. Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes. Gods can bleed. Repulse God himself has fallen in this lobby, and that is a very big sigh of relief from the lobby there. And it is at the hands of none other than Rel, Fresh, and Nubatoon. I don't know whether they got the eliminations or whether they just finished up the knocks, but either way, they have taken them down here, and that's what I talked about. If you play too aggressive in these parts of the games, it's when you get lobby focused, and that's where your skill goes down. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you're getting shot at by 10 different players, there's not much you can really do at the end of the day.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's going to be the second Elim for Nubatoon and his trio there. So pretty big for them. again, refreshers are so welcomed, especially when you come to these mountainous terrains, right? These big mountain territories. You know it's going to go up or it's going to go way on down. Either which way, it's going to cost you a lot of material in the process. Here it is. This harpoon's going to be clutch right now. Few shots left in it, but sitting on an excess amount of material now because they do get to successfully pull stuff up. Here it is. Look at the refresh for all of them. Fresh is going to be completely maxed out now on the material count. He's got extra big shields as well. So again, these elims are massive for them right now. Great position to be in.
Great position to be in that big win condition on Fresh, that epic tactical shotgun, epical shotgun if you want to call it as well. It is the win condition for Fresh. He has some of the best tack aim, not just in OCE, but in the world in general. And that's where he can really make big plays. And that's where they can really pop off. I saw Rel also had the epic charge there. I think Nubatoon did as well, as Nunca now getting a knock onto Reckless, which is a fight we've seen breaking down a lot up near Steamy. And that would have been a tough rotate from them. Steamy stacked all the way down past Misty. They had the hardest rotate on the map, and it looks like things didn't end the best for them. But with zones like that, maybe a bit more luck next game. They made their game 1 count when they got zone. Game 2 going against them. But yeah, this is looking like a beautiful position of Fresh to be in. I want to see how our second place team is doing as well. It looks like Daneth and that should still be in this one, I believe, out of Sweaty, but I don't know. If not, Bathan, Zedox, and Sayo, we just got an eye on as well. Looking really, really good tied for second as well, because first place went down very early at the hands of Repulse.
Yeah, they're down. They're not going to be earning anything this time around. And honestly, it was only a 3-point spread, right, between first and second. And then, of course, the neck-and-neck tied up for Bathan, Zedox, and Sayo there from Team GLM. So very, very close overall for the top 3 standing so far. Other teams still in this, I guess, the fight, right, for the top is Brezzo. We saw Brezzo and company. They didn't have any elims, but they were sitting comfortable on high ground. We're asking about their elim situation. Look at this. They do manage to find 3, or they have managed to find 3.
Nice.
Because of that, they are in the lead right now.
Yeah, they're in first place right now. It's going to be a battle between Daneth and Bathan here as well. Their squads, Casine, they went into this game on the same amount of points, so it's going to come down to those eliminations. Who can survive as we get our half-half zone, and that is such a difficult half-half. It's not up the mountain, which is good at least. A lot of these teams have to come down, but it's just so far away. This half-half can't be any further off the map. A quarter of it at least is already in the water as well. So this endgame, if it starts pulling north or northeast up all this terrain, Monster, it's going to be terrible. And if it pulls south or southwest, it's going to go across the water, which is also terrible. So you're getting the picture I'm painting. Rock, hard place, this lobby is between it.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see fights are going down everywhere still in the process. In the meantime, it's surge after surge battle, and still 2 players have to go down before the threat is gone. Nonetheless, though, you can see most of the lobby has managed to migrate across, those balancers being the key positioning tool here to get across. Honestly, with how high the terrain is, with how steep the mountain is, those bouncers, you get a lot of value for them here. And now, with Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, Alec down again this time around. So, okay, at least he managed to get an Elam this time here. Obviously having an unfortunate game 1. Not looking like a great game 2 for the champs, though.
I think if I'm gauging this right, I have heard from the back of house that it looks like Alec has now disconnected this game as well. So having some big issues there, which is weird because the player that doesn't normally have connection issues, Worthy and Jinx still having a good time with it, still hopefully going to rely on series points, or I mean that team could essentially come top 10 with 2 games. So with 4 still, we see how we'll go after this, 3 after this one as well. Potentially might be able to do something. So I'm not entirely sure whether we can count them out just yet. But here we see Brezzo, Luna, and Culture. They're doing well on the low ground here. Luna leading his team incredibly well in game number 1, seeing if he can do it on game number 2, and we haven't really seen a team solidify the low ground, as that's going to be incredibly hard to do here, as this zone is going to keep pulling up this mountain. And as you know, Sundown would always say, Monster, old mountain will take his toll, and if you're trying to play the low ground constantly being forced in the layers above you, it's going to be pretty hectic. Whoever's on high ground right now, and here it is, Fresh, Nubatoon, and Rel have a ridiculous advantage. This was 100% big brain Rel making big brain moves and securing high ground for this team.
Not to mention the harpoon played a key factor in them having all the hard material that they would have needed, and now Rel's going to reconnect to the building that was just nearby. All that structure is going to be the perfect infrastructure to lean onto. Look at that, Rel leading the rotate here, being in front like you mentioned. He's going to be the glue to this team, and again, just the icing on the cake for this trio here. Paired up with Nubatoon, they know what they're doing. Fresh just really mingling well right now. Honestly, they're doing pretty solid. 27 points so far. continues to keep them in the top 10 here. These two Elims are great, just picking apart what they can, where they can. Rel's going to find another one now. High ground hold. Great here.
Look how confident Rel is. He has the RPG, he has the rocket launcher in the back pocket. He's not even using it to apply the pressure on those teams below like you would normally expect. He's already holding onto it to secure high ground. That's what he wants. He doesn't want the limbs with it right now. He wants to use those 6 rockets to suppress anyone. Because now, where does the next rotating zone go? And look how fast this lobby is clearing out now coming up this mountain. It is such a hard rotate because of things like this. You're being pushed up, you're having to break your way up, and you have a team on high ground who has fantastic aim, knows how to apply the pressure, and has an RPG spare if they need to use it.
Yeah, no doubt, but respect to Jinx here, of course, and Worthy making their way up that mountain and stealing away placement point, because now they are in top 10, even as a duo, even losing Alec 2 games in a row, putting in so much work, but on high ground, more loot comes in, the repressure to keep him completely capped off, and now the RPG pressure, like you mentioned, it's going to be perfect for keeping second height under serious turmoil, and there it is. They're going to force them all down to low ground.
Not that I think it's going to go to a heal off, because with the zone pulling up the mountain like this, everyone's being forced to fight each other. Jinx is now fighting. You just saw Spraz go down. You saw Remy go down. Jinx is down here. Nothing you can do. Worthy's battling his way up. This is telling the story you need to be told. This is why I don't think it's going to go to a heal off, because that's what this entire rotators look like. Compare the high ground right now, sitting down, looking pretty, feeling the breeze in your hair, compared to the battle that's going on down here. And I don't know. I don't see how anyone can beat Rel, Fresh, and Nubatoon in this game. Rel even has the 6 chug splashes if by some miracle it goes to a heal off.
Listen, Nubatoon put the squad on his back last round and stole away the points to make them a top 10 hold. And now Rel, Fresh, and company, of course, are rounding things out and saying, hey, you got us up here, but we're here to hold it together. This should be a breeze of a win for them, especially with the win conditions that they have. Power shotguns, RPGs, everything that they can ask for. And honestly, the low ground, they're scrapping it out. They're not going to have much because of all the climbing that they did. So this rocket launcher is about to be unleashed soon.
It is going to be unleashed soon. And look at that. They're handing all the heal off to Rel. So unless Rel makes a big mistake here, there is no way they lose this one. But also, a lot of these teams on the low ground, Raikou, this one being the only team that came into this game inside the top 5. So they're looking really, really good to jump up themselves on the leaderboard. But it is going to be the story of Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon. How many points can they get? How much of an advantage can they jump up on the lobby? And there it is, the Rockets. Fresh spraying down. He still has the AR ammo. The fights break down. Scammed. Raikou toe-to-toe. They just lose that one. Coming in third, that's where the big placement points is. And Go Egg right now trying to do something big. He's already done enough. He's secured second place. There's no way he's going to beat the high ground team. Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon jumping up to 71 points with what I think is a 9 elimination win. That is huge.
Yeah, a little 9 Elim dub, and Fresh is going to go and hit the dance move on the high ground. And there you guys have it, taking second to none. A big win for them. Huge dubski there. Taking a win in the qualifying week is pretty nice.
Yeah, and you talked about he's a hybrid player early, obviously big content creator, arguably the biggest name in OCE, and that puts a big target on, that puts the pressure on them. Fresh, obviously focusing on the content, still always playing the competitive side. And when they didn't make round 4 last week, that was really the only massive notable upset of a team not making it to round 4. They make it to round 4 here this week. I talked about a bit of turmoil yesterday. Clearly they've dusted it off, and the thing to know about this team, specifically Nubatoon as a player, he's a momentum player. When he's hot, he will keep going red hot. When things go bad, that's where it breaks down a little bit. So we'll see. Analysts, do you guys agree with me? Vandy, what are your thoughts? Because that was a red hot game number 2.
It probably would have won it.
Spicy game, as we like to say. So congrats, of course, to Fresh, Nubatoon, and Rel holding that high ground and just dancing to victory, it felt like. That was really cool to see. But my question on the game, or to the analysts at least, go to, we saw another zone that pulled really, really far. Timmy, how do you deal with that as a team? Because this